Hey folks, I am Brian Wiggins for No BS BJJ. How many reps do you really need to do in order to master a technique? 10,000. Cool, thanks for watching the video. No, the answer is actually not 10,000 reps. We're gonna get into the science behind drilling and how many reps you really need to do to really master any technique in Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, frankly, anything, but we're focusing on Jiu-Jitsu. So, how many reps does it in fact take? Well, you'll hear the number 10,000 bandied about a bit. You might also hear 10,000 hours of practice. Where does that come from? Well, first of all, the number is actually a bit of a misnomer, a bit of a myth. Right. So what does the science tell us about this? There's a few things that a lot of different studies have pulled out looking at how the brain learns, acquires new skill, and retains new skills. The first thing, deliberate practice is better than just rote repetition. So let's just say we're learning arm bars, right? If I'm trying to drill an arm bar, I could just throw up 100 reps or 50 reps at class without even really thinking about it. And you've probably seen this where it's people just speeding through, just throwing them back and forth. And great, okay, good practice and all that. But it's not going to do as much, nearly as much for retention and acquisition as you being deliberate with it. Having a lower number, but being much more mindful and going through all of the details and getting all the pieces right and visualizing it as you're doing it, all of those things, being mindful is really going to be better than just rote repetition. Research also tells us that doing this practice over a period of weeks, rather than doing it all at once, is much better for retention. So if our goal is to get to 100 reps of something, it would be better for our retention and for acquiring this skill and mastering this skill. It would be better if we did 10 reps a week over 10 weeks rather than doing 2 weeks of 50 reps or 100 reps all at once. Stretching it out over time, studies have shown allows our brain to more readily absorb and just build the new neural pathways we need to get good at something. All right, what else does the science tell us? It tells us, the science tells us, that having varied scenarios is better than isolated reps. Okay, so if we treat isolated reps like I'm at the gym, we learn the arm bar, I'm with my partner, and I'm just doing arm bars, even being mindful with them, we're doing all that other stuff, but I'm doing them isolated. Having varied scenarios applies context to it. So having someone give us a little resistance or doing it as we're sweeping someone or in the middle of a scramble, anything like that, putting the move into context is going to let our brains more readily accept and just embed this information, encode this information. The last thing that science has shown us over the course of studying how the brain works, mistakes are actually a big part of learning. Making mistakes is more important than being perfect every time. It's through those mistakes that we learn more of the context, that our minds go, oh wait, that's not right, and that sticks in our mind even more. So yes, doing the reps perfectly, great, fantastic. But making the mistake, trying to do the arm bar and having someone, yank their arm out or be able to stack us or just being able to hit the pass or whatever, trying and making the mistake is actually going to do way more for us getting better at something than doing it perfectly every single time that we do it with no mistakes ever. Think about the athlete that has the undefeated record and then they're dealt their first defeat, right? If they're not mentally prepared for that, if they've never had to overcome something like that, that can destroy them, right? Think of like Ronda Rousey when she took her first loss in the UFC. Man, she was never the same fighter after that. Now, listen, Ronda's doing great. She's making lots of money at WWE, so good for her. But I think that's a really good example of where perfection is the enemy of learning and resilience and learning how to get the skills. I know that's a really weird train of thought, but it works. All right. How do we apply this to our jiu-jitsu training? All right. There are three kinds of repetition that we can be doing in order to learn a skill. Again, let's use the arm bar just for an example. Now, first of all, in any of the repetition that you're doing, you must be mindful and deliberate with it. What does that mean? It means you're taking the time to go through the details. It means you're taking the time to accept the biofeedback that you're getting when you're feeling the pressure where your legs are, where your arms are, where is this person's arm in relation to your hips. You're being mindful of all of that. Where is your body? How are you balanced? What's your center of gravity? Their center of gravity. How does it feel? How does your body feel? All of that. Being mindful, present, and in the moment for any of these is going to be paramount for really encoding that skill into your brain. Now, there's three types. There's static, or what we can call traditional drilling, where that's just me working with a partner, throwing up arm bars, one after the other, trying to be as good as I possibly can be with each one, hitting all the details, right? That's number one. Number two, we're going to do some drilling with resistance. Now, obviously, our training partner, if they're good, are not just going to flop over and let us do arm bars, right? They're going to provide us with enough resistance, even in normal, static, traditional drilling, that we'll be able to feel how we're supposed to move with an arm bar, right? Now we can do type number two, which is resistance, where now they're going to not necessarily let us get it. They're going to try pulling that arm out. They're going to try to find a way to wiggle out as we're trying to throw up that arm bar. Maybe they'll try defending a little bit more. This could be anywhere from, say, like 60 to 75, 80% of effort in that defense. Not necessarily 100, right? We want the opportunity to actually successfully do it. That's an important part of it. But we also want to know that if we're making mistakes along the way, our partner's not going to let us get away with that. That if I'm throwing my leg around to try to loop it around the head to get that arm bar, and I don't have a firm grip on their arm and they just yank it out. Okay, cool. That's good. I made a mistake. That's good for me learning, but we need some of that resistance. Okay? Type number three, drilling type number three. Now we go into like positional or contextual drilling. So this could be, for this armbar example, we start in guard. My job is to hit that armbar while we're essentially rolling live. Your job is to defend. Your job is to pass. My partner's job is to pass. Now I'm putting context to everything. Now I'm seeing how things might actually move around as I'm trying to do this. Every time I move, they're ready for it and they know it's coming, so it makes it even harder. But having that positional sparring provides context to all of it. Now, all of these are important. If you've never done the move before ever, just going right into resistance or positional sparring is not going to be a great option for you. You're just not going to hit it. You don't have the details yet. But if you never add resistance and you never add contextual drilling to your tool chest, to your arsenal, you're not going to progress nearly as fast. You're going to find it's a lot harder for you to remember all the details. So what you could be doing to get those details down is you learn the new technique. You might do 5 reps with traditional drilling, just taking the time slowly to get all of the details. Then you might do another 5 reps with that resistance, that 60 to 75, 80% resistance from your partner. Then you do another 5 reps where you put some time on the clock and you give it a minute, and you're going to do that for 5 minutes. And every minute you start over and your job is to hit the arm bar. And you do that until you hit 5 arm bars or until your 5 minutes is up. That might be one way of going about hitting all of those. And then once you have the details down, you don't necessarily have to do the static or traditional drilling anymore, and you can just move right into resistance and positional, that contextual sparring that will allow you to more readily accept that information into your brain. How many reps should we be doing in order to master a technique? There is no magic number to this. Research has shown that it's in the neighborhood, depending on the quality of reps that you're doing and on the contextual context that you're doing this in, and how well you acquire new skills, a lot of other variables that are really tough to measure. But research is showing anywhere between 60 and 90 quality contextual reps. That's it. So less than 100 reps. If you're doing them with quality and you're doing it with resistance and you're doing it with context, being mindful the whole way through, that's the number, 60 to 90-ish. Might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower for you for any given moves. Certain moves you might be able to get like that. Other moves might take you a little bit longer. This should also be done over the course of multiple weeks, maxing out at maybe 10 to 15 reps per session, per class. So you do 10 to 15 reps this week. Maybe you do another 10 to 15 reps on your next class. Maybe you do class twice a week. So you're doing anywhere from 20 to 30 reps. You do that solidly that way for 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to have that move down pretty well. Will it be perfect? No. Do you have a lot more to learn? Absolutely. But you're going to have it down where you're going to feel competent at it. Now, what else should we be doing with this? Honestly, with any kind of training, the best thing you can do is track it. Tracking what you're doing, how often you're doing it, and what the results of doing it are going to be one of your best tools to progress in jiu-jitsu. Again, go back to lifting weights. Yes, you can go in the gym and just lift for feels and maybe you'll be all right. But the people who are serious about getting in shape and building power and strength track what they do, because they want to know, all right, how many reps did I do? What was my working weight? And that way I can progressively overload over time. And that's how you get better. So jiu-jitsu, the same thing. What should you do? You should track it. Track it with when you did it, the date. So to get done class, I write down the date. What was it you drilled? How many reps did you do? And I would even break it down to what the type of reps were. Were they the static? Were they resistance? Or were they contextual? Are you hitting it live? So after you're doing all this, now you're rolling at the end of class, you're having a good time. You've been struggling with the arm bar, but you've been drilling it. And now all of a sudden you're hitting it off once a night, twice a night, maybe a couple times in a roll, depending on who you're rolling with. Write that down. That's a good indicator of where you're going. Are you hitting it out on the white belts, or are you hitting it on the blue belts or more advanced belts, depending on where you are in your journey? Evaluate that live performance. How did I do? Be honest with yourself. What worked well, what didn't? And that way you can see what your strengths are, but that way you can start shoring up the weaknesses. Are you missing details? Do you just need to drill it some more? Now, one option that you have out there is that there is a no BS BJJ drilling log that you can get off of Amazon. You know, shameless promotion right here. I personally think it's a good thing. I use it for my drilling. Maybe you want to use it too. Give it a shot. If you have another one, or you just want to have a notebook you write down, that's fine. But I've given you a tool here that will work for you just as well. Because we live in a capitalist society and I've got bills to pay. So, okay, I've wasted enough of your time. What do you need to know? Bottom line, you don't need nearly as many as 10,000 reps or 10,000 hours. The quality of the reps matter. The context and resistance of your reps matter. And the time frame, how long of a time you're taking to do these reps also matters. That's it. I'm Brian Wiggins. This is No BS BJJ. See you next time.